BJJ for breakfast.
What's up, everybody? Coach Nate here. So I often get asked by new jiu-jitsu students for tips or advice that I would give them on how to improve in jiu-jitsu quickly and kind of get the best results in their jiu-jitsu training. So I sat down and I wrote a list out of my top 10 tips that I would give. I was going to do a long form video where I list all 10 of those, but the video just kept getting longer and longer, and it got way past 30 minutes. And I decided that was just too long of a video. So instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to chop up these videos into smaller form content and basically release one video at a time for each tip. That way, each tip can get its own fair time in the video. So for the first video tip that I'm going to be doing, the tip that I would give you is to be consistent in your training, okay? Consistency of training is super important. There's a saying in the sports world that hard work and consistency eat talent for breakfast, basically, if you ever heard that saying, meaning that it's more important to be consistent in your training and to work hard than it is to be talented. Oftentimes, you'll see someone who's very talented who maybe doesn't put in the work and isn't that consistent. And initially, they start out ahead of someone who isn't maybe super talented. But if that person is consistent in their training and they work hard, ultimately, eventually, they pass up the more talented athlete and kind of leave them in the dust. So I have found this to be very true. So in the jiu-jitsu world, another saying that I really like is that when it comes to jiu-jitsu, it's not who's the best, it's who's left, right? There's lots of good jiu-jitsu practitioners out there who ultimately fall off the jiu-jitsu path, and the person that stays on the path and who's consistent over time eventually overtakes them and ends up being much, much better than them down the road. So consistency is key, okay? So what does that mean? It means you need to get to the gym and train jiu-jitsu regularly, okay? Depending on how busy your life is and how much time you can carve out, that might mean different things to different people. But at a minimum, just to kind of maintain your skill level, you should be training at least twice a week. 3 times a week is usually the sweet spot for new people, okay? When you first start jiu-jitsu, your body won't be acclimated to it, and you're going to be really sore, and you're going to get really banged up until your body gets used to it and you kind of learn the movements and how to do them without getting hurt or hurting anyone. So a 3-day-a-week training regimen when you're pretty new to the sport is a good idea. Basically 1 day on, 1 day off. So maybe a Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, or Sunday, something like that, where you give your body a day of rest in between your training sessions. That works good for most people. As you get further and further into the sport and your body gets more acclimated and you can kind of control the pace of how hard you roll, and you have known training partners so you know roll or train lighter or harder, then you can maybe add extra days. And ultimately, I train about 6 days a week now, and I'm 43, and I'm able to do that because I've been doing this for 20 years, so my body's very acclimated to it. And not every roll that I roll is a life or death struggle, right? Especially when you coach and you train all the time, you can have some soft rolls, some hard rolls. Not every day has to be a battle royale, and that lets me train more regularly and more consistently. But if you can get in those 3 days a week, a rest day, a training day, a rest day, a training day, and then maybe on your rest days, do some other supplemental stuff. We'll talk about that in later videos. A little bit of cardio, a little bit of weights, just to kind of keep your body at a good baseline of fitness. You're going to be doing really well. And then another thing I highly recommend when it comes to consistency, you are going to get injured. You are going to get sick. Things are going to happen that will derail your training. I can't stress how important it is, even if you can't train, to still go to practice, okay? Go to practice. Keep it in your routine, all right? Most of the people that I see fall off the jiu-jitsu journey and then never come back, they get injured, they get hurt, or something comes up, and their routine changes, and then they never can get back to that old routine of training. And they want to, but it's just gone now. That time slot has been taken up or filled by something else. So unless you are paralyzed in a wheelchair or something, okay, if it's just a tweak or a sprain or even a minor break or something, still go to the class, take some notes, be there at that time, learn through osmosis. If it's a minor injury and you can still move around, still you can try to go through the motions and train around it. Okay. Be safe, be careful, don't aggravate it, don't make it worse. But keeping that time slot dedicated to jiu-jitsu, keeping your brain engaged in the sport, doing what you can do, working around these different injuries is a very important piece of staying on the jiu-jitsu path. Now, I'm not telling you to ignore injuries and just power through it, because what will ultimately happen if you do that is it's just going to be a worse injury down the road, and probably ultimately one that's going to take you off the mats entirely. So if you have an injury, you need to be smart about it. Okay, don't do anything more than you can do, but do what you can do. That's kind of what I say. That's kind of my mentality on it. That probably will require you to talk to a doctor and see what's safe to do and what's not safe to do, right? But the main point here is stay engaged with your jiu-jitsu team, okay? Even if you're going to come while you're hurt and just be the video guy or take pictures or whatever, just stay involved, okay? So that you keep that time slot dedicated to jiu-jitsu, and you can still kind of learn some jiu-jitsu. Maybe you can't spar, but if you could drill, come in and drill. Do what you can do. If there's a hole in your game that you want to plug, right, there's a great time to do it. You don't got to worry about sparring or losing or getting tapped. Get some reps in on some drills that will help plug that hole. Or if there's a new guard or something that you want to learn, assuming the part of your body that's hurt isn't required for it, then, take that opportunity to get some reps in and some work in on that particular piece of your game. So tip number 1 is consistency, okay? Be consistent in your training and you will see improvement over time. If you stay consistent for 10 years or so, eventually you will get your black belt. That's how it works. You just got to put in the time, put in the work, and stay the course. Okay, so that's tip number 1, guys. Like I said, there's going to be 9 more tips, okay? Each one's going to get a separate video. They're going to be coming out over the next week or 2. Hope you enjoy them. I hope you appreciate them. Thank you. Train safe out there. Os.
BJJ for breakfast.